Texas represents leadership, hope, patriotism, and pride. It's a place where people of all cultures and creeds live, work, and raise their families together. It's a place full of opportunity. Unfortunately, under Republican control, Texas is going backward. That trend is coming to an end. It's time for a new vision in Texas. I am running for Texas Controller because I want to be part of the new generations of leaders who will bring Texas back to the 21st century and position it for a strong future. I am committed to a transparent tax administration and to establishing a vibrant economy with thriving jobs, so you can provide for your family and maintain a healthy life balance. You deserve an inclusive Texas, a Texas that embraces diversity, where no matter where you were born, the color of your skin, or the language you speak, you are welcome. You deserve a Texas that treats women equally in all areas, including equal pay and the right to make their own medical decisions. You deserve a Texas that recognizes that love is love. A Texas where all faiths, traditions are welcome, and where church and state are truly separating governmental decisions. A Texas that welcomes new business ventures and give employees the right to organize and unionize. A Texas that respects and embraces data and science, where government leaders do their elected jobs of working for the best interests of all Texans, not special interest groups. A Texas that guarantees easy access to voting for all citizens. You deserve a Texas that repeals race suppression, where no matter your zip code, you will have access to health care, clean water, electricity, high-speed internet, and excellent education, and the resources to support your family. You deserve a Texas where you feel safe in our cities and towns, as well as in your own home. That Texas is possible with new leadership. I am running for office because it's time to bring this new vision to life. It's time to bring Texas back to the people.
Welcome to VR Texas, your source for progressive news in the state of Texas, where we always keep it local and we always keep it real. I'm Rob H.
And I'm Vince Pryor. And speaking about keeping it real, Rob, what's on our agenda for today?
All right, we got a lot of things to cover today. Got lots of headlines to go through, but we're going to go deep dive on things like book banning and the unfortunate case of Mr. Ted Cruz. What else we got, Vince?
We're going to also do a deep dive in a death row case here in Texas. It's a pretty big deal. I think that people would like to hear about that. So what else are you thinking about?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's get into it. Roll it. All right, great. Here we are. We're doing our first format show where we are long format. We're not doing just one article that's 7 minutes or less. We're going to cover headlines, and then we're going to go deep on 3 particular ideas. And so let's respect our viewers' time, Vince, and let's go straight into the headlines. What caught your attention this week in the state of Texas?
Well, what caught my attention this week in Texas was the Melissa Lasario case. It's a case about this woman who in 2008 was wrongfully convicted of her daughter's death. But I was also taking a look at, I don't know if y'all seen the Medicare and how Texas has this scheme in where they pay doctors or hospitals back and they profit off of Medicaid. And then we also want to talk about Cancun Cruz.
Oh my goodness.
I think that's something, well, I mean, he's always good. He's always juicy. Something to talk about because he's keep on, being an asshole.
Yep. That is the technical term for what that guy is. So, okay, I'm going to get my glasses on here because I made a list. Yeah.
Not that you didn't look sharp already or
Thank
smart.
you. I haven't had glasses my whole life, and just recently the doc is like, yeah, you need these for reading. So here I go.
It completes the look. You look good on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I prefer the sunglasses over these, but I'll go with this.
Then you'd be too cool.
Okay, things that caught my attention this week. So we have Jewish heirs contend that the Museum of Fine Arts Houston has art that belongs to their families. This, of course, is stolen art stolen by the Nazis, and that is a very good reminder that we are not that far away from the horrors of the Holocaust, and it affects lives of many people today in lots of different ways. And this is just
it's also kind of a reminder of some of the things that are going on over there in Ukraine, and how these things can happen and how people are affected for long generations.
Yes. 100%, and we cannot forget that. It's a good reminder. Okay, another thing that caught my attention here is there is book banning going on in Texas. So as a result, yeah, shockingly, in connection with the last legislative session, obviously we have a muzzle that's been put on our teachers, but now we have school boards and we have districts going in and specifically pulling books off the shelves, and surprise, surprise, those books are targeting, or the subject matter of those books are LGBTQIA+ and racist, or books about racism and the like. And so we are in the midst of something I think quite scary in the state of Texas, unfortunately. So that's going on.
Right.
And there were a couple articles on that. Okay, another article that caught my attention is there is a pipeline that is going to go, in the words of the headline, Pipeline Idea, a Dagger through Sabine Lake. Now, we're in Houston, but we can talk about the suburbs as well. And so I think that, environmental issues are really important. And there's a very thoughtful article from a Port Arthur resident talking about how Energy Transfer LP, a pipeline company, is trying to build the Blue Marlin pipeline that will tear through the Sabine Lake and devastate the community around that lake that depends on all of the environmental aspects of that lake.
Sabine Lake is a good place to go during the summer, and it'd be cool not to go. I mean, to go to that lake and not be filled with oil and fumes. And aren't we? I mean, in the light of current situations that are going on globally, you would think that we'd be doing our best to get away from fossil fuels. I'm eager to hear. I'm going to look into that myself just to find out more about that. Because growing up, I remember a destination place was the Sabine Lake, and with all that stuff going on, I think that'd be an interesting read.
Yeah, Vince, you are connected to all of Texas. There's not a part of Texas that you don't touch. I'm
homegrown, born and raised.
Yeah, you are. Okay, all right. One more thing that caught my attention is Chavez Huerta Day, which we are celebrating in Texas, and the Houston ISD has no school this week on Monday. I know this because I have 3 kids who are in HISD, but I think it's a great thing that we are celebrating the civil rights and labor activists Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez. And in fact, in Austin, there was a march last week in support of and honoring Cesar Chavez. So I think it's really good that this is at the front of the minds of many Texans right now, despite what you might hear.
Yeah, I think that you and I might have touched on that about a month ago in February when we were talking about Martin Luther King and how labor workers in the fight for equal pay was joined by Black and brown folks, and how they left a big impact. So I think, that's something else to really dig into.
I was really pleased to see that. Yeah, and we did cover the 1966 La Marcha, which neither of us had even heard about before, because we in the educations that we had growing up in Texas, we weren't directed to that. And so I am really pleased to see that at least some folks in Texas are focusing on this and keeping that alive. So with that, Vince, where do you want to go deep dive this time?
Okay, so first, because I always say that I haven't met a cop that I like, and one of the reasons why is because they're dirty. So I don't know if, so we're going to be on this new long format, and we want to be respectful to everybody's time. I'm going to see if we can do it now. The plan was for us to be able to do this on a timer. Yes. And see if we can do that. Do you have the capabilities,
I do.
Oh, wise one, with the computer technology to time us?
I have a timer that I'm going to pop up on screen. This has
Okay.
always been our idea. In fact, folks who've listened to or watched our prior episodes were thinking, hey, wait, this is a little bit abrupt, the way we ended. But the idea of this program is to cover things in a concise way and not just ramble. So what we're going to do, and we did 7 minutes or less in the 7, I think, episodes we've released today. To date on our YouTube channel. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go deep dive on 3 topics that you and I have chosen, and we will put up a 5-minute timer for each one of those topics, and we're going to do our darndest to keep within that time. Okay?
Keeping us honest.
Keeping us honest. That's right. You ready for it, Vince?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Roll them or hit the clock or something like that.
Technology. Here we go. Bam. Oh, not there.
It's going to be a delay for you because it has to come up.
Yes, it will.
There you go. All right.
Bam.
So bam, 4 seconds in. I'm going to reclaim my time, my 6 seconds. But I wanted to talk about the Melissa Lacerio case.
Yes.
This came to my attention after reading the e-edition of the Texas Chronicle, in which the headline stated basically 80 legislators in Texas signed letters to the governor asking for clemency to Melissa Lacerio. And so a little bit about a case. Back in 2008, she was pregnant with twins. I believe it was twins. And she had already had a baby that was less than just over a year old, or just right around in that place. And the baby died. Tragically, baby died. The baby fell down the stairs and died because of the trauma. Now, because she was Latina, she was a brown person, the police officers assumed the worst. And so they took her into questioning how the baby died. They were accusing her of doing it. Now, this is the reason why I say police officers are bad and the law is bad, is because if you don't think that you've done anything wrong, you won't ask for a lawyer because you believe that the story that you're going to tell will set you free. But what you don't realize is that police officers have an ulterior motive. And this is why there's lots of people that are still in the county jail. There's still people in jail on small things that they confessed to they confessed because they were tired of having the conversation with the police officers. And so for me, that kind of hit home because I've been in situations where you're accused by a police officer or you're accused by someone in power, and they put you in a room and they take water from you, they take breaks from you, and they keep on reiterating that you did this bad thing. And then when you're finally aspirated or just tired of having the conversation, you try to rationalize their thoughts. So in this particular case, Melissa basically told the cops after 6 or 7 hours of interrogation without a lawyer present that, I guess I did it. And then she started to play that back in the head. I guess that if I'm home alone with my baby and my baby falls down the stairs in my house and I'm responsible for my baby, then of course, I guess I did it. Now, then that is a person defeated trying to reconcile all the shit that they're going through. And the police officers took that as a confession. So when they played this out in court, they didn't have any physical evidence. The physical evidence suggested that it was an accident. The thing that convicted her was her saying, I guess I did it, quote unquote, I am responsible. And now the legislators are asking for her case to be retried because she's being set to die on April 27th. What does that tell you about the legal system?
There's so much in this story. I mean, from the disproportionate impact of the injustice system on people of color, in particular, marginalized folks who are put on their heels, made to be the victim, innocent until proven guilty, does not apply to folks like this or folks like you and perhaps me as well. And so that's one strain of this story. Another strain of this story is just the death penalty. The justice system, even if it were a just justice system, would be imperfect. And so the death penalty, and I don't know that we've had a whole lot of public discussion about this lately because there's so much other stuff going on in the world. The death penalty is a terrible thing. It is inhumane. It is on its face unjust. It cannot be just. And so, and in Texas, we kill more people than any other place
Some people take pride in that, which is a little disgusting,
They do.
especially in Texas, where you believe that people should have their babies even if they don't think that they can afford it, or they're being victims of rape. The curious thing about this, Rob, is that, police officers legally can lie, right? And they can put you in these situations where they'll read you your rights and they'll play games with you, and they can do all those things, and then you can wind up on the death penalty, or you can wind up in jail for life. And the basic tenets is they think, well, if you were innocent, you wouldn't have said these things. Everybody says that, but I guarantee you that if you ever in a situation where you haven't eaten, you haven't drank, you haven't had anything to drink, and someone's keeping you from the rest that you need, you'll say anything just for the rest. This is why torture doesn't work. This is why I think, lie detectors don't work. This is why I think that, these types of confessions made by bad cops is a bad thing.
Okay, well, we just hit our time.
I think I did it.
I think you did it. I think that covers it. I mean, this story is really important. It really hits at the chord that I think we've seen in a lot of other stories, particular prior episodes where we talked about the bail system. It's the same thing that a lot of folks like to ignore the context of the situation. And it's all about context. It's access to justice. It's presumptions that a cop is on your side or not. If you're a rich white person, you grow up thinking a cop is a good person, is there to protect you. Right. If you are a person of color who's grown up in a poor neighborhood, that cop's out to get you. And those presumptions affect everything. They affect how you make the statement to a police officer, just like
how you even interact. People always say, well, if he wasn't guilty, why did he run? Well, because we know in our recent history, people who stayed there have wound up dead. We realized that police officers place guns, drugs. I mean, I wish there was a website. I think there is. We have to look into it, but there's a website of how much police departments pay for wrongfully imprisoning folks, kidnapping, because they put them in jail illegally, for murdering folks. And then there should also be a case about how many times police officers went to jail for planting evidence or illegally detaining people to get a false confession. I mean, this is a big deal. This is why I say I don't like the police, because their intentions are not good generally.
All right. Okay,
so let's move on.
we're going to have to move on to the next one. Okay, so this one is about book banning. So I'm going to get the timer started. Right. I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I just want to quote for the record that I came in right at 0-0.
You did. You knocked it out. And then we even had a little short talk afterwards. I think that's cool. People appreciate that. We're going to go into a new one. Let's see if I can do it. I don't know if I'm as good as you, Vince. So we'll see.
We'll try. I'll try to keep you honest.
Okay, here we go. And
roll.
There we go. We're going. All right. So there's an article there was an article in the Chronicle in the last week covering the Katy Independent School District, which is of course a Houston suburb. In that school district, we have the Board of Trustees taking off the shelves two Holocaust graphic novels called Mouse 1 and Mouse 2. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's MAUS. These are graphic novels that are highly regarded as education tools for telling children and young adults, or older children perhaps, about the horrors of the Holocaust through graphic novels. The Jewish people in the novel, I believe, are portrayed as mice and the Nazis as cats. And there are some really tough images, which, by the way, if you're going to tell the story of the Holocaust, you have to have some tough images. And so this article talks about how the school board in Katy, are considering those two books. There wasn't much else in that article about why or what it is that they're going to try to do. And so it's under consideration. And that is a strain that we're seeing across the state now. There was a similar, you go, Vince,
No. I was just thinking about, growing up, I remember our Texas history book was the size of, I'm sure some of these people have never seen a phone book, but our Texas history book was really, really thick. And the reason why it was because they said it had so much information to kind of help us from the sins of our past. And when I think about this book right here, I don't know, why would they want that in the system to teach that this thing did happen, the Holocaust did happen. And this, I think, like the graphic novel, it's easier for people to put themselves in the moment.
Yeah.
If you see someone who's portrayed as a mouse, the Jewish folks, and the people who are perceived as the cats, the white folks, the Nazis, you can see naturally that there is a disparity. How,
Well,
cats
yeah,
don't like mice.
And as a parent of 4 children, ranging from teenage to younger children, I fully appreciate the nuance of teaching children about difficult things like the Holocaust. And the answer isn't to just ban it. Now,
talk about it.
What else is happening? There's another article that covers a similar topic, which I found in the Austin American Statesman, and it was basically a kind of an expose. They highlight the Granbury ISD and a gentleman, I shouldn't say gentleman, the superintendent of Granbury ISD named Jeremy Glenn was caught on tape telling his employees in that ISD, which went 81% for Donald Trump, that this is a conservative district. If you disagree with our politics, you should stay quiet. And so what they've done then is they've taken the list from Representative Cruz, which had a list of 850 books that Cruz didn't like and thinks should be taken off the shelves in public schools. And they've whittled it down to 130 titles in Granbury to remove from the shelves for consideration. This expose that I believe was done by the Texas Tribune, ProPublica, and NBC News found that 3/4 of those books had LGBTQIA+ themes. And so what we're seeing here is a strain which is to target what they are calling an ideology. And I think this is an important nuance, which is that it is an attack on identity in the name of the rejection of the identity. So it's denying that racism exists. It's denying that transgender people are a thing. There's a quote in this article that says, well, people can be transgender. That doesn't make, I think he says something like, there are men who think they're women and there are women who think they are men. So that quote is a violent quote because it rejects the idea that a transgender person's identity is a legitimate thing. This is what Nazis did. They rejected the right to exist for Jewish people and others, by the way.
Well, they included LGBTQ people.
Yes, they did. That's right. And so what we're seeing is
the pink triangle.
This concerted effort across the state to remove from the shelves books that educate our youth, but more importantly, books that represent a world that they are rejecting. This is not just like red meat kind of, there's a quote again from this guy saying, the activists and stuff are making too much out of this. We're really just targeting pornographic images and that kind of stuff and violence, and really what they're targeting is the identity of many, many Texans, in particular transgender Texans and LGBTQIA+ Texans across the state. I didn't hit the 5 minutes as well as you did, but yeah.
But no, you didn't hit it. So we're going to talk about that down the road somewhere.
Yeah.
But this isn't a very important issue because I think about if you watched the Oscars, there was a person who won the award for playing Tammy Faye Baker, and I remember. Because I'm LGBTQ, I'm a gay man, and growing up, I was always in conflict with religion. Probably part of the reason why I'm an atheist now is because the way that they portrayed a loving God was not what I was hearing. I was hearing a vengeful, hateful God. And the reason why I mentioned Tammy Faye Baker is because it was debatable whether her husband was LGBTQ, but she said the right thing. That I think, when you say, what will Jesus do? I think Tammy Faye Baker said, how on God's green earth can we reject basically God's children? They are made in the image of God. So if you are walking this earth, you're in God's image. And it goes contrary to anything that conservatives say or Republicans say, where they say, leave me alone, keep government out of my life, keep government out of my bedroom. And time after time, they contradict themselves on all the things they do, from the death penalty to some of these issues as far as banning books and banning the word gay, like they're doing out there in Florida.
Right. I mean, it's keep government out of my life, except to the extent I want my principles to be forced on other people.
Right.
In particular, I want to reject that other people can exist.
Right.
And that's... terrible. That's pernicious.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this because I've always believed this, and this is because a lot of people are projecting, and you can take that for what it's worth. But there's a lot of people who have things in their closet, for lack of a better term, that they don't want anybody to know about, and they feel like if you get educated on it, that you'll be able to detect them or be able to pull them out of the closet. And I think a lot of these issues is the case, and there's many cases of LGBTQ white men, I'm going to say this, who have legislated against their very own. And that's to get power and also to turn the cameras or keep stupid eyes away from what they didn't want the world to know.
Yes, 100%. And that brings us to our final discussion here.
Speaking about protection.
Speaking about also targeting books, by the way, which shockingly it finds its way into this story, but we're going to talk about none other than who, Vince?
Ted Cancun Cruz.
All right. Shall I get the timer going?
I think we're going. So here's what I'm going to
do it in 5 minutes.
I think that you can put the clock up there. I don't know if we can end it in 5, but we'll try. We'll try.
We'll do our best. We'll do our best. Okay, you ready?
All right. I'm always ready. So
all right, here we go. Bam.
Roll on. I got the timing down. All right. So go ahead. What do you want to say about Ted Cancun?
Well, of course, what Ted Cruz has done, we have the confirmation hearings for the Supreme Court nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson. And anybody who saw that saw a number of things. Mm-hmm. One is a supremely qualified, wonderful jurist who is going to make all of our lives better, hopefully by serving on this court for the next 20, 30 years. It
makes the Supreme Court look a little bit more like the United States.
That's right. She was an inspiration to so many. She did so much that so many other nominees never had to do simply because of her identity. Sitting there, Cory Booker, I thought, gave one of the most impassioned statements that I've heard, and I really, even though I'm not an African-American person, I came to tears listening to Cory Booker say that, and it spoke to me as well. But amid all that, amid the very qualified jurists that we have up there, and the historic nature of an African-American woman being, for the first time, appointed to the Supreme Court of the United States, we had a just ridiculous parade of mud and red meat from Republicans. We'll talk about Ted Cruz because this is a show about Texas, and Ted Cruz is our Texas.
Right. Right. If you ask me projection, and I'll go into that. So, okay.
Yeah, so I'll just say one thing. So Ted Cruz just peppered Judge Jackson, soon to be Justice Jackson, with a number of irrelevant and stupid questions. They truly are, the technical term is stupid questions, unintelligent, not nuanced, directed toward his base to try to get him airtime on television for his inevitable run for president.
Right. Two things.
I won't go into the details. I'll let you jump into that.
No, well, I was going to say two things. He's one of those people that I call trend hackers or people who are trying to figure out the Twitter algorithm, because I think shortly after he made that ridiculous show of himself, he was checking his news feed to see if
there were pictures of him checking his Twitter feed after he made these
clout chasing. I
mean, come on.
Yeah, that's pathetic. But here's what I'm saying. So let's just get one thing straight. His name is Rafael Cruz. He was born in Canada to American parents. Okay, so when I say there's projection going on, what you said about her qualifications, I think she is the most qualified candidate to run for Supreme Court. By leaps and bounds, she surpasses at least 4 or 5 of those people in her history of her jurisprudence. And so when you see someone like Rafael Cruz, Ted Cancun Cruz, who also went to Harvard and is now basically a clown, I think he was a little jealous about this. I think that he was projecting and he was trying to inflict pain because this Black woman has achieved heights that he wanted to. I don't know if you remember, but there was a point in time that Donald Trump wanted to appoint him to the Supreme Court, right? And so now here comes this Black woman who's born and raised, been Black her whole life, right? And the only reason why I'm saying this is because Ted Cruz thinks he's white because now he's Ted Cruz instead of Rafael Cruz, and he forgets that he's from Canada. This Black woman does everything that every Black person subconsciously and consciously knows has to happen for us to get to the next step. You can't just be as good as, you have to be better, sometimes 3 and 4 times better than the white person that y'all are, if you're competing for a thing. And that can be anything. That can be for a Supreme Court judge. That can be for President of the United States. That can be for city council person. If you're a Black person, you have to be better. And the reason why this makes me angry, and I might even do a prior thought on this, is that people forget and they assume that because they didn't see the emotional trauma or the emotional stress or the hard work that you had to put in to get a job, that you didn't do it. They always want you to prove it. They always want you to prove that you've done what you're supposed to do. And her record, she shouldn't have to. And other people who have done the other things to get to reach the level that they got to, they shouldn't have to prove by showing the receipts of how they got there. I think they even asked her for her SAT scores.
Yes.
No one knows what Ted Cruz's SAT score is. It's questionable whether or not Donald Trump took the SAT. So this is just, there's a lot of projection going on in all this stuff. And I think that's Ted Cruz is finding out that people know that he has a Latin heritage and he's projecting that he wants to be white. And I think he's jealous of our new woman of color Supreme Court.
All right, look, we did it. I do want to add a couple things. We did just hit those 5 minutes, so look at that. We're rocking and rolling.
I think I'm 2-0.
There you go. All right. So I do think it's worth noting the things that Ted Cruz did ask. So he asked the judge to define a woman. So this is, again, projecting because the Republicans are so upset about transgender women. And as we've seen, the attack on transgender children in the state of Texas. So Ted Cruz is given a shout out to his transphobic base in Texas by doing that. Now, I will say that I hate Supreme Court hearings because they can't, and Judge Jackson couldn't give honest answers to, she just had to basically dodge everything, which is what they always do. They say, oh, well, I can't answer this or that or whatever it might be. Now, to be clear, I think it was Judge Roberts, now Chief Justice Roberts, who said in his confirmation hearing that the Supreme Court calls balls and strikes, and that has made me mad. This is almost 20 years ago now. I've been mad ever since, which is that the Supreme Court does not call balls and strikes. The Supreme Court defines the strike zone, which is subject to discretion because we have a constitution and laws created by words, and words are not like numbers. They don't create nice and clear boxes, and we have to
nice straight lines
over. Yes, right. They're not straight lines. We have to work through these things over time. And so creating the strike zone is what our justices do. And I would like to hear Ketanji Brown Jackson say, fuck the binary.
Right.
Ted Cruz, I'm not going to say what you want me to do. Ted Cruz probably wanted some answer about like X and Y chromosomes, which is, as we know, as any true scientist could tell you, that's actually a pretty unnuanced and non-technical way to talk about sex, and gender is completely different. And so I just wish there were some more nuance, and there can't be, and it's so goddamn frustrating.
Well, and you touched on something that also plagues a lot of Black and brown folks. I don't just say marginalized folks. You can't, you by your very presence in the room in that very situation have to be better than. And what I mean by that is if someone's asking you a stupid question or a dumb question, it's in your, I've been in this situation before where someone said, I remember, I'm going to use football term because, it's something I understand. Vincent, you missed that tackle and it cost your team the football game. How do you feel about that? Well, my instant reaction is going to be, fuck, we just lost the game and it's all my fucking fault. And if I said that, then they're going to put in the newspaper that Vincent blew up and got angry and started yelling at the reporter for asking a very simple question.
Yeah.
Ketanji Brown couldn't answer those questions the way that she wanted to, because if she did, she would have been an angry Black woman.
Contrast that. Exactly.
Who would not have been qualified for the Supreme Court. And I was getting there, and to contrast that with that other idiot that says, don't you like beer? What's his name?
Brett Kavanaugh, who was accused of something much worse than anything they tried to dig up on Judge Jackson. He was accused of rape. very, I'd say, believable accusations of
Well,
rape.
there was two witnesses that said that
Yes.
they were sexually assaulted by him.
Yes, 100%. So, okay, we're out of time here. We got to button things up, or our timers don't mean anything. So we got to stick to our guns here.
Okay, so I don't know. Did we tell them that it's a new 30-minute time? New 30-minute format.
We're a little bit over time, but that's okay. Our show now being a show that's a little bit longer, we're going to go a little bit more in depth on a couple more items. It's going to be at roughly 30 minutes, and I think we're at about that now, if not a little bit over. But I think folks will forgive us for that. What do you think, Vince?
Well, I think so. I think that we're trying to form a relationship with our family here, so give us a little room. Thank
you so much for viewing. We are so happy to have you, and we look forward to seeing you next time. You ready, Vince?
Ready. Roll it. All right.